Hey guys, and welcome to a different type of tutorial. Last week I made this tram for you, and I did it through watercolor, and there's a time lapse that I'll link below. This week I'm going to turn that tram into a PNG that I can drop on different textures and put on different pieces of paper to sell as different layouts and to put in different pieces of artwork that I do. First I'm going to add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to go through and I'm just going to adjust that brightness and contrast. Then I'm going to go to the histogram, and I'm going to try to make those whites pretty darn white so that they're easy to mask out. Instead of using saturation to control my color, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to do this balance so that I can pull out those blues and yellows from my horrible lighting where I took this photo. Now, as you can see, there's still a little magenta or green on the right, depending on which way I slide this. So I'm going to have to make another amending layer. So I'll go ahead and make another balance layer in the adjustments. And I'm going to fix that right side. But now the rest of it's a little too green, so I'll just change the mask. Here you can see that with the brush, I'm going to enlarge the brush and, oops, pressed C instead of B. So I'm going to enlarge that brush, and then I'm going to mask out those areas that look pretty darn magenta. And a quick way to change from masking to unmasking is just use that X button on your keyboard. Now I'll adjust the colors just one more time to try to get it a little more white. You can see here that it's still a little yellow, but that's okay. If you press on this color panel, you can actually see which way it's tending. That white is tending towards an orange. This next color layer, you can see I'm going to just shoot to change the highlights. So those white parts of the paper, I go all the way to green and all the way to magenta, and then I can really see that balance in the white. So once your eye sees those extremes, it's easier to balance out where you need to be. As you can see here, once I'm on the correct layer, my white is still a little purple, but it's probably good enough for now. Now I'm just going to do something super simple. I'm going to take this Smart Selector tool and I'm going to select everything that I don't want to show. I press delete. Normally I would mask this out. Once you've deleted something, it never comes back, but if you mask it out, you can kind of tweak it as you go. This is a pretty simple shape though, so I'm just going to go with it. Now you can see when I turn this layer off, you can see what would actually show up as the PNG. Now I'm going to go in and select some of these windows because they're just way too white. What really makes this easy for this piece of artwork is actually going to be those inked outlines. It makes it really easy for the algorithm to kind of see where you want to delete within the shape. Now that I've erased those windows, I'm going to crop my picture so that the PNG really only has the tram and no extra wasted transparent space. Once it's cropped, we'll export it as a PNG. Here you can change the scaling, things like that, if needed, but I'm just going to export so that we can move on. You can also save it without transparency, but that defeats the whole point of what we just did. So once you're exporting, go ahead and save it somewhere you can find it if you're following along and doing this yourself. If not, just hold on with me a second. Now that it's saved, we're going to create a new document so you can watch me drop this into a postcard. Once I've opened the file size that I want, which it's taken me a little bit to find, I'm going to place in some watercolor paper that I've scanned in from a long time ago. Now, as you zoom in, you can see that's a pretty fine detail. So I can just enlarge this placed image if I want. Then I'm going to place in the PNG that I just made, that transparent tram. And as you watch me size this, you'll see that that white is still pretty darn white from my image, but that's totally okay because we're going to go change how it blends. And when it multiplies, it looks just like a watercolor on this new paper, which means I can move it, I can change it, I can use it for all sorts of things.